Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Longtail build series, video number 14. In the last video, we mitered and welded the brake bosses, and then ran into some chain clearance issues with the chain hitting the brake mounts. But regardless, we still took the bike for its first test ride. In this video, we'll braze a custom rack, then fabricate and attach a Pithy Bike badge. First off, let me show you guys what happened with the rear brake bosses. I ended up moving them to the seat stays. No surprise there. Some of you guys commented on why I didn't do this in the first place, and the reason is because I had previously bent the seat stays. That increased rim clearance, which left me with nothing to mount the posts to. So to get the posts on there, I had to weld on some extensions. Okay, on to the rear rack. This was my initial drawing, but I ended up deviating from that design a bit. The design required me to bend the tubes, so I purchased a rigid bender for my 1/2 inch tube, or tubes rather. My first test attempts at bending required a lot of force, so I mounted it to my workbench and I put an extender pipe over the handle to give me more leverage. I then needed a way to hold the workbench in place, so I used a 2x4 and sandwiched it between the bench and the wall. Alright, let's bend some tubes. I'm playing this video at normal speed so you guys can see I don't know how slow I am. Anyway, it'll speed up later. Yeah, I was just being careful and I didn't want to go too fast and overshoot my bend, because if that happens, yeah, that would really stink. I guess I'd have to like stick it in the vise and unbend it. But I was careful and didn't overshoot it. In fact, I think I had to go a little more on this one. Alright, we're on to the final bend. You'll notice that the tube is long. It's way longer than it needs to be, but I was just playing it safe, and I knew that I would mark it and then cut it, which actually I cut it off camera, so here you can see it's already cut, and now I'm just bending it to connect the ends. Alright, so that's done. And now I'm working on the back bar. I'm not sure what you call it, but this is the bar that is closest to the head tube. I actually made this, the one you see here that I just made, it is the wrong size, and I ended up having to make a shorter, smaller one off camera because I had changed the design of the rack a bit. Alright, we are ready for brazing. My setup includes Victor medium duty regulators, an Ameriflame MD 71TH 6-inch light duty welding handle with a Uniweld type 17-1 brazing tip. I'm using compact Uniweld flashback arrestors. These were hard to come by and quite expensive. Here's a shot of the packaging in case you guys are looking for the same ones. Next, I'm using an ultra lightweight weld hose from tinmantech.com. I'll have a link in the description for this. And finally, I've got another set of flashback arrestors attached to my regulators. These are pretty easy to find. The ultralight weight hose actually came with adapters to fit a standard B-size fitting, so that was nice. For flux, I'm using low fuming bronze flux from Cycle Design and low fuming bronze rod also from Cycle Design. Alright, so before you guys get the wrong idea, this is not a brazing tutorial of any kind. In fact, I'm gonna lay off the tips because I don't have any and because it's new to me. This is the first time I've tried brazing a rack or anything of this caliber. So before this, the only experience I had was brazing a seat tube, a test seat tube binder, and what else did I do? I think that's it, just a bunch of test binders, and that was using silver, so that's a very different experience from bronze. Bronze takes, you gotta get the joint a lot hotter with bronze. I don't know, they're both challenging in their own way. Like silver flows really fast, and bronze you need more heat, so it's hard to like, you gotta really control the heat well so you don't burn up the flux. Alright, so here's the joint cleaned up, and here's a shot of it sanded and cleaned up. So this joint actually broke later on. I was wrenching on it and trying to, I was seeing how strong it would be, and I actually cracked it. Can't really see it here, but trust me, I cracked it. So I ended up having to redo it off camera, and I made sure I got filler inside the tube to really make it strong enough. So here I slowed the video down, and I guess this is sort of a tip. Not really. I mean, you'll see people doing this in other videos too when you're watching other people braze. They'll take the torch and they'll apply it to the joint, but then they'll be lifting it off the joint like you see me doing here, and that's just to control heat so you don't get it too hot. So yeah, I guess I slowed it down so because, you know, when the video sped up, it looks like I'm like flicking it around for no reason. But that wasn't the case. I was just trying to control heat. And for mounting the rack, I brazed onto the forks some Paragon Machine Works water bottle bosses. They were these little like triangular slots in the fork ends. So I actually drilled them a little larger and stuck the bosses in there and then brazed them in. And here I'm attaching a 1.8 millimeter thick 4130 chromoly mounting plate. Here is the front rack attached, and now I can check my brake clearance, and it looks pretty good. So now the next thing, now that the front rack is on here, I'm gonna take my front supports, which will connect at the forks, and just kind of get a gauge for how long it needs to be. And now I'm slotting the end where the tabs will get brazed in. And for these ends, I will completely fill the inside of the tube with bronze filler. And off camera, I drilled these tabs, and then I mounted them onto the front fork and onto the rack. So I brazed everything in place while the whole setup was assembled. Okay, here is the front end completely finished. And now we're ready to move on to the cable guides. So I zip tied the cable on here just to make sure everything was working properly and that is indeed where I want the cable to go. And after that, I then put my guides on there, and they're secured down by leather tied onto, I guess they're like these metal rods that I had lying around, just junk scrap rods. And now I'm brazing the guides on there, and I'm using silver flux and silver wire. And I'm really sorry my hand's in the way. I was focusing on brazing and didn't realize that my camera angle was bad. That stinks. Sorry. Alright, so here is the rear guide, and then the guide towards the middle of the top tube, and the guide towards the front of the top tube. Alright, the frame is pretty much almost done. Now we just need to get the badge on there. And this is a piece of stainless steel. It's the thinnest steel I could find online. I could have gone to like a sheet metal shop or someplace like that around town, but I ended up just out of convenience just ordering it because you know, I gotta work during the day and all that other stuff, so I just had it mailed to me. Alright, here's my PB logo, and now I need to make it fit around the tube. The top tube is where I'll mount it, so I'm turning down this piece of aluminum stock. This will be like my form, and I'm drilling register holes onto the stock. So what I'll do is I'll mount pins into these holes, and those pins will go through the center of the P and the B on the badge. Here I am turning down the pins and drilling holes on the wood side of the form. Doesn't look too bad, but when I took it out, I realized it's not that great. It's a little bit, I don't know, it was bent a little weird. I think the pins got stuck inside the P and the B because the holes were drilled exactly the size of the pins, and so when they were trying to curve around the aluminum form, they pinched it. So I took it out, I just stuck it in the form without the pins, and that worked a little better. Still not great, but this ended up doing the job. Okay guys, that's all for this video. Just one more video left, and we're done with this bike. In that video, I will paint the bike and add on a few little tidbits, and then we're done. Don't miss it, and I'll see you guys next week.